Oh, hello. Allow me to introduce myself. I am your narrator, and like any good narrator, you found me sitting in my dressing gown, in a comfortable chair sitting next to a roaring hot fire, with a delicious cup of hot cocoa. Hot. Well, I guess since you're here, you'll be wanting to hear a story. Let me see what I have. Disappointing ending. Wrong audience. Oh yes, this one is perfect. Because as you know, this Christmas is going to be different from a lot of Christmases, and it may even be very difficult for a lot of people this year. This is why this isn't just your run-of-the-mill story. This is the greatest story ever told. A story of upheaval and uncertainty, but ultimately hope. Want to hear it? Well, make yourself comfortable, because the story I'm about to tell you takes place a long time ago in a country far, far away. The year is about 4 to 6 BC. And our tale begins with a young couple called Mary and Joseph from Nazareth who are engaged to be married.
Joseph, this sourdough bread is delicious. It's your best one yet.
Thank you, Mary, but I was hoping for a few more air bubbles.
Oh, Joseph, I can't wait until we're finally married.
Me too. I can't imagine anything happening to us that could possibly complicate that.
Mary thought this day was just an ordinary day like any other, except all that was about to change in an instant. Because God had sent Gabriel, his most trusted angel, to give Mary a message so important it would change the world forever.
Peace be with you, Mary.
That wasn't the message. Keep watching.
You will give birth to a baby boy called Jesus, and he will be the Son of God.
Mary was shocked.
Can I think about it?
It says no.
Mary was afraid, and she knew this would take some explaining to Joseph, but she trusted in God and his plan for her. So that night, she told Joseph about what the angel had told her, and it went pretty much as expected.
Joseph, are you still there?
Give me a minute.
So that night, the Lord sent another angel to Joseph in a dream. The angel told Joseph that the baby inside Mary was a miracle and would grow up to save people from their sins. So the next day, Joseph did what the angel said, and he and Mary got married. So far, so good, huh? Except this is merely the beginning of our story. For Mary and Joseph, their epic journey was just beginning. And their lives were about to be disrupted even more by powers beyond their control. You see, where Mary and Joseph lived was part of the Roman Empire, and the emperor at the time, whose name was Augustus, wanted a list of everyone who lived in the empire to make sure they were all paying their taxes. So everyone was forced to return to the town where their families were from to enter their names into a register, also known as a census. This meant that Mary and Joseph would have to travel from Nazareth to Bethlehem with just some supplies and a donkey. You still with me? Okay, let's pick it up back here. The journey was long and especially tough for Mary, who was now heavily pregnant.
This is taking ages.
Sorry, Mary, I was told this donkey had horsepower.
Meanwhile, as Mary and Joseph continued their journey, on a hilltop outside Bethlehem, a group of shepherds were tending to their sheep and protecting them throughout the night. When suddenly, as if from nowhere, an angel appeared in front of them. They were initially a bit scared.
It's every man and sheep for themselves, run!
But the angel spoke and said to them,
Do not be afraid, for I bring you good news.
You brought us supper?
No.
All prices have risen?
No.
Wolves are extinct?
No.
The angel explained that in Bethlehem the Saviour of the world will be born, and they will find him lying in a manger. So the curious shepherds decided to travel to see the baby Jesus for themselves. A few miles away, an exhausted Mary and Joseph have nearly completed their 70-mile trek from Nazareth to Bethlehem.
Are we nearly there yet?
Not far now, and I promise, when we get there, we'll find a nice, comfy hotel and I'll run you a nice, warm bath, okay?
Oh, Joseph. So, an exhausted Mary and Joseph arrive at Bethlehem looking for a place to rest.
This place looks nice. Let's try it.
He knocks on the door.
Welcome to the Bethlehem B&B. How can I help?
My wife here is pregnant and we're looking for somewhere to sleep. Do you have any room?
Have you booked in advance? Unfortunately, I can't help. It's census season, the busiest time of year for inns. You have to book in advance.
A tired and downhearted Mary and Joseph then went from inn to inn, but nowhere had a spare room for them to rest their weary heads. Just as they were about to give up, they tried one final place.
Welcome to the Holiday Inn. How can I help?
Joseph then told the innkeeper about their journey and how Mary was going to give birth at any moment. The innkeeper thought about their problem and offered them a solution.
I'm afraid I didn't have any rooms available. However, I do have a stable suite that you are welcome to stay in. It's very basic, very rustic, and quite a few farm animals. Interested?
With Mary now close to giving birth, a desperate Mary and Joseph decided they had no choice but to take him up on his offer.
It's maximum 6 people. You aren't expecting any guests, are you?
It wasn't exactly 5-star treatment for the impending birth of the new saviour of the world. It smelt bad, the animals were snoring, and they only had straw to sleep on. But since both Mary and Joseph had never been glamping before, they decided to try and make the most of it. That night, a new bright star appeared in the sky above the stables. It lit up the sky and could be seen from miles around. Some wise men, and wise women, saw the star and they knew that it meant a great king was about to be born. And so the 3 wise people set off to find the new king and bring him some proper expensive gifts. Meanwhile, back at the stable, surrounded by animals and miles from her home, Mary bravely gave birth to the baby Jesus. The new parents wrapped their baby in swaddling cloths and laid him in the manger that the animals ate their hay from. Shortly after, the shepherds who had also been following the star arrived at the stables and saw the Saviour for themselves. They were then followed by the 3 wise people who placed their gifts that they had brought before the baby Jesus.
I bring you gold.
Whoa, not sure how the next one will top that.
I bring you frankincense.
Not bad. And last but not least?
And I bring you myrrh.
Let me just Google myrrh real quick. Tree bark, type of resin, natural gum. Anyway, I'm sure the kids love it. And it so was that despite all the disruption and uncertainty that Mary and Joseph had been through, the boy in the manger, like the star in the sky above the stables, was a light in the darkness. The wise people worshipped before the king, and the shepherds praised God, vowing to tell everyone they met about the miracle they had witnessed. Oh, I think he might finally be asleep. It's been a long night for him. I think it's fair to say that Jesus' first night on earth was anything but a silent night. But I'm sure he will go on to do some great things. I even think I have the next part of that story here. But I'll tell you that story another time. Until then, I bid you farewell and a very Merry Christmas. That is freezing now.
I wonder what this year has felt like for you. I wonder what it felt like the first time you heard of the horrible virus COVID-19, when country after country were being put into lockdown and you realised perhaps for the first time that you weren't going to see your family and friends for quite possibly a really, really long time. This year has been incredibly hard. There's no denying it. It's felt chaotic and unsure, frightening, and at times really, really dark. And of course, we all know that Christmas this year is going to feel incredibly different for so many people. I guess, like me, you've heard that carol, Silent Night, maybe hundreds and hundreds of times. It's a really, really beautiful carol. And yet the truth is that that very first Christmas, that day when Jesus Christ was born in a stable, at that point, the world was far from silent. It was chaotic and dark and unsure, just as it is now. Mary and Joseph have travelled perhaps 100 miles, and they arrive, Mary about to give birth, and there's no room for them to stay anywhere, and they find themselves in a stable surrounded by straw and animals. Before long, the jealous King Herod would try and have Jesus killed, and the family would become refugees, fleeing for their life. It was dark and unsure and uncertain. And that is the beauty and the hope of Christmas, that the God who created all that is, the God who spoke and galaxies were formed, that very God wasn't born into a neat, polished, perfect world. Rather, he was born into a stable in chaos and instability and uncertainty. The real hope of Christmas is that when we gaze into that stable, into that manger, and into the face of the Christ child, we gaze on the love of God in all its fullness. Emmanuel, God with us, a God who loves you and who loves I with an unimaginable love that we could never have imagined. And so we wish you a very Merry Christmas and pray that in this season you will know the hope and the love of God.